Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise to give you the essential knowledge on the biggest shifts in tech, culture, and, well, today, it's all about gear.
It is. We are strapping in to look at something that on the surface looks familiar, but is actually a pretty radical shift.
We're talking about the brand new BSS PX1 Plugout FX pedal.
And this is so much more than just a new stomp box. I mean, for anyone who's ever built a pedal board, BOSS.
Yeah.
It's synonymous with those simple, tough, single-purpose analog boxes.
The gold standard of step on it and it works.
Exactly. The PX1 is a fundamental, almost a philosophical pivot for them. It's a digital platform that is very intentionally wearing the clothes of an analog classic.
Absolutely. And this is a company that's been defining guitar tone since, 1977? They've put out over 140 unique models.
And sold something like 19 million of them. It's an incredible legacy.
So our mission today is to unpack this shift. What is the tech behind this convertible stomp box? And more importantly, why did its unique purchasing model cause such an immediate and frankly visceral controversy in the musician community?
The core idea, I think, is that the PX1 is a brilliantly innovative hardware platform. It's designed to capture the essence of the entire historic BSS effects lineup, all those sounds, and put them in one box.
Well, you have to understand the name to get the product right.
You do. The term Plugout is key.
And some Roland and Boss fans might recognize that from their synths. So what does it mean here?
Okay, so the PX1 is fundamentally a digital plug-out model loader platform. The whole concept started with Roland's System 1 synthesizers.
Right.
And it refers to this idea where the hardware hosts these meticulously modeled software algorithms.
So it's not just an emulator, it's running the real deal digitally.
Precisely. It runs these authentic BSS effect algorithms, but only one at a time. It's a perfect bridge between the hardware and software worlds.
And they've housed all of this cutting-edge stuff inside that iconic BOSS compact pedal. You know, the familiar size, about 73 by 125 millimeters, 400 grams.
It just slots right onto your board, no aesthetic compromises.
But what's fascinating is the effort they claim to have put into the modeling itself.
Yeah, we're not talking about, generic digital emulations. They're saying these are newly developed algorithms, and they're using a powerful, dedicated DSP engine.
And dedicating that whole engine to just one effect at a time. Why is that so important?
It's all about authenticity. By dedicating all of that processing power, and we're likely talking high-res, like 32-bit floating point, it lets them model every little detail, the component interactions, the nonlinear response, even how the power supply sags, all the stuff that gives the original its feel.
And the initial reviews have been pretty positive, right? People are saying it's remarkably close to the old analog box.
They're glowing, yeah. The consensus seems to be that the tone and, crucially, the feel are there.
And that promise of genuine tone is critical, especially when you look at what they give you right out of the box. It ships with 16 effects in total.
Which is a very generous starting point. 8 of those are permanently pre-installed. You can't get rid of them.
The foundations, basically. The OD1 overdrive, the SD1.
Your DS1 distortion, the PH1 phaser, all the classics. But it's the inclusion of some of the rarer pedals in that permanent library that really makes it interesting.
Right. You mean like the SP1 Spectrum and the one everyone talks about, the SG1 Slow Gear?
Exactly. The SG1 Slow Gear is legendary. It was one of the first pedals to even try and do those violin-like volume swells.
And they were discontinued so quickly, so originals are crazy expensive now.
Astonishing prices. So getting that sound just baked into the pedal from the start is massive.
Okay, so that's 8 permanent effects. Then you've got the other 8.
Right, the second batch. These are the ones you can load into the pedal's user memories with the free BOSS Effect Loader app.
And what's in that batch?
More essentials, really. The CE2 chorus, the DD2 digital delay, the VB2 vibrato. So right from the jump, for what, $250? You're getting access to vintage tones that would cost you thousands to collect.
Which brings us to the hardware itself.
Yeah.
How did they manage to squeeze all that new tech into the classic case?
They were pretty smart about the interface. You still have the 3-knob layout.
But they're not the same old knobs.
No, they're clickable blue knob encoders, so their function changes depending on the effect you've loaded. And below them, you've got this wide LCD screen.
Which you need for navigating a digital pedal.
Absolutely. It shows you parameter names, values, all your menu settings. It's minimal, but it tells you everything you need to know.
But the connectivity, that's where it really leaves its analog ancestors behind.
Oh, completely. We're talking modern high-end I/O. The stereo input and output is huge.
For stereo rigs, ping pong delays, that sort of thing.
Or studio work, it's just vital. And then you have a TRS MIDI input for MIDI clock sync.
Why is MIDI sync so crucial for a stomp box like this?
Well, if you're playing with, say, sequenced drums or backing tracks, you need your time-based effects to lock in perfectly.
Your delays, your flanders.
Right. MIDI clock lets the PX1 integrate into a Pro setup in a way the original analog pedals never could. It just makes those effects so much more usable.
I think the most compelling modern feature, though, is the expanded control you get from that single CTL1 EXP jack.
Oh, yeah. That adds a ton of practical utility. You can plug in external foot switches like an FS6 or FS7.
For tap tempo and for what they're calling the swap function.
The swap function, yeah. Which basically turns the PX1 into two pedals at once, right?
That's the idea.
You use an external switch, and you can instantly toggle between two effects you've pre-selected, side A and side B.
So you could have, like, an OD1 and a DS1 ready to go.
Exactly. For a gigging musician with limited pedal board space, that's incredibly useful.
And the expression pedal integration. The old analog boxes couldn't do that.
No, and it adds a significant amount of, well, expression. You can assign almost any parameter to the pedal.
Like the rate of a vibrato or the gain of an overdrive.
Or the sweep of a phaser. It transforms a static sound into a dynamic performance tool. You're getting functionality you'd normally only see on a big multi-effects unit, but with that authentic BOSS tone.
All of which is impressive, but it leads us right to the business model. And this is where BioSS accidentally stepped on a pretty big landmine.
This is the absolute crux of the controversy. The hardware is brilliant, but the way you get future effects, that caused a massive reaction.
Okay, so lay it out. How does it work?
Starting in January 2026, any new effect models will be available through what they call a model pass. You buy it in the BioSS app for $9.99.
And that sub-$10 price point immediately set off alarm bells. People started yelling microtransactions.
And that was amplified by the horse armor analogy that went viral.
A reference to that infamous piece of DLC from the gaming world.
Right. The criticism was that you're being asked to pay extra for digital content on a piece of hardware you already own. It felt like software licensing creeping into a world that's always been about one-time purchases.
It's interesting how visceral the reaction from the guitar community was. But is that horse armor analogy really fair?
That's the critical discussion that kind of got lost in the outrage.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the VST plugin market or even expansion packs for big modeling amps,
It's pretty standard.
it's totally standard. Paying $10 for a highly detailed official model of an iconic effect is a bargain, really. You're paying for the R&D.
The argument being you're getting a simulation of a $400 vintage pedal for the price of a coffee and a pastry.
Exactly. So you have these two competing views. Is it the future of affordable access to rare tones, or is it the start of some insidious digital commercialization?
And BIOS had to pivot pretty fast to address that outrage.
They did. Their defense focused on three key clarifications. First, these are absolutely not subscriptions.
They're one-time purchases, a lifetime license.
Correct. The Model Pass is tied to your Roland account. Once you buy it and load it on the pedal, it works forever. You don't need the app or an internet connection.
It's ownership, not rental.
Right. Second, they stress that these aren't just, firmware updates. They're entirely new, complex, optional effect models.
And finally, they just reiterated the core value. The initial 16 effects are always yours. You paid for the hardware and those first 16 models up front.
They're trying to draw a clear line between essential functionality and optional expansion, but there is one key trade-off that keeps the skepticism alive.
And that's the storage
The
level.
storage limit, yeah. This is not a multi-FX unit that can hold hundreds of models. The PX1 only stores 16 effects at any time, 8 fixed and 8 user slots.
So if you get really into it and buy, say, 20 of these model passes,
Your purchase collection is going to quickly exceed those 8 user slots, which means you have to go back to the app to swap effects in and out.
so you become more reliant on that digital ecosystem to manage the library you paid for.
It's the trade-off. They prioritized pristine tone for one effect over massive internal storage. It's a very deliberate design choice.
Okay, let's pivot a bit and talk about who this pedal is actually for. What are the undeniable benefits here?
For a tone purist who still needs flexibility, the benefits are huge. The main one is access to those rare, discontinued, and frankly, astronomically expensive vintage pedals.
Like the slow gear we mentioned, which can sell for over $400 used.
And the whole PX1 is $250. It just democratizes access to these sounds that were locked behind collector prices.
And it's a huge cost and space saving for your pedal board.
Absolutely. Plus, you get low noise, you get digital reliability, a silent buffered bypass.
Yeah.
These are things that are objectively better than some of those old temperamental analog units.
You get the vintage tone without the vintage headache.
Yeah, it's a perfect way to put it.
But how does it stack up against its direct competitors? At $250, it's not quite in the premium multi-FX territory, but it's up against other single-effect modelers.
If you look at something like, say, the Line 6 HX1, which is also designed to run one effect at a time.
Right.
That unit costs about $100 more, but it stores hundreds of presets and models internally. The PX1 is very clearly targeting the player who is already deep in the BSS ecosystem.
Someone who specifically wants the authentic BSS algorithms.
Exactly. Its value rests entirely on that history and the quality of those specific recreations.
And that brings us back to that crucial limitation. The PX1 only runs one effect at a time.
And it is explicitly not a broad multi-FX device. It's not going to replace your whole rig if your style relies on stacking, say, a chorus into an overdrive into a delay all in one box.
It's a highly specialized, swappable, single-pedal workstation.
That's it. So if you look at it from a macro perspective, it's like a digital archive, a palette that preserves decades of that compact pedal heritage.
It really does seem to bridge that gap between collectors, tone chasers, and actual gigging players who need those sounds, but with modern control.
It takes all the nostalgia and the rarity and makes it practical and usable in, 2025. It's a remarkable piece of engineering.
It is absolutely fascinating. They've packaged these meticulously modeled classics into that familiar footprint, but with all the modern digital control you could want.
In short, the PX1 is like a digital jukebox packed with classics. It offers instant high-quality tone. But its long-term success really hinges on whether players accept that digital ecosystem.
And whether they view the Model Pass as affordable access or as, the commercialization of digital scarcity?
That's the million-dollar question.
Which raises an even bigger question, one that pushes beyond just the tech and into the philosophy of collecting gear. If the PX1 offers these incredibly high-quality digital versions of rare pedals, like the SG-1 Slow Gear, what does this platform mean for the future market of the physical, original vintage pedals?
It's a huge question. If you can get 99% of the sound for $10, does that $400 vintage unit, does it keep its allure just because of what it's made of? Or does this platform ultimately deflate the vintage market for these specific, highly modeled classics?
Something for you to mull over. Thanks for diving deep with us on the BOSS PX1.